hands stained from the people who deceive me. Muddy hands break through the chains, go free me. Looking for change, looking for pain, pulling a mob, pushing a train. I'll never stop, stick to a lane.
Hello, my name is Holly, and this is the Murder She Shed. This is the place we discuss true crime right from my she shed. And today happens to be Wacky World Wednesday, which you know is going to be a wacky crime or a truly horrific one. And today is truly horrific. So, I'm going to put a warning up here because this is one of the most horrific cases of child abuse ever recorded in California. Not sure if you've heard of this case. It's actually not talked about a lot. Yeah, it's an older case. If child abuse and violence is a trigger for you, you might go on my channel and watch a different video. But first, before you go, could you hit that subscribe button? I'd really appreciate it if you help this Southern girl out. Trying to get people to find me on YouTube. It's kind of hard to do. So, if you could do that so people could find me, I would love it. All right? Said all of that to say, let's talk about this case. Another warning, because it gets real serious real fast. Okay? Let's go. So this all begins with a man who is truly evil. This man was born with the name Richard Bodie from Norfolk, Virginia. And I am so sorry, Virginia. For some reason, I keep picking on you guys for Wacky World Wednesday. Anyway, he was born with the name Richard, and he ended up changing his name to MANSA MUHUMMED after converting to Islam. And he believed he had the right to multiple wives. Surprised a lot of men don't believe that they have a right to multiple wives. Surprised it's not more common, really. He married his first wife, Marva Barfield, in 1973 and ended up having 14 children. They moved to Bakersfield, California in 1985. Shortly after moving to Bakersfield, MANSA ordered his wife not to feed their children for certain periods of time. At first, he instructed her not to feed them for a couple of hours, and eventually he instructed her not to feed them for an entire day, or in a few instances, at least a week. While Marva and the children went hungry, MANSA continued to eat whatever he wanted, which usually included 3 meals and snacks. And if they stole food, they would be beaten and forced to keep eating until they vomited, and then forced to eat their vomit. I told you it's a bad one. MANSA beat his children with his hands, a boat oar, electrical extension cords, switches, like branches from trees, and the buckle end of a belt. He would beat their hands and knuckles until they were in severe pain, and their hands were swollen and bloody. He also would have the children lie on their stomachs with their feet in the air and then beat their feet, causing them to swell up really big, and then he made the children stand and walk on their swollen feet. He also would have the children remove all their clothing and then beat them all over their bodies. At times, he would even order all of his children to beat one particular child. Then at times, he would have all of the children beat one particular child. Basically, he'd have them group up and just beat the one child. Can you imagine how they felt being forced to do that? And he would not only make them do it, but he would make them do it to his approval. They could not stop until he approved, I guess, of the damage that they had done. He would then have them stand in the corner at times for entire days at a time. They were not allowed to move or sleep, or he would beat them. They would have to stand there because they could not go to the bathroom and urinate and defecate on themselves. Picture yourself as an adult being forced to do that, to stand there and do that. how humiliating and upsetting and emotionally and physically draining that would be. They also were locked in closets or the garage. They were never allowed to use the toilet. They had to use the bathroom in this bucket until it was completely full, and then they were allowed to dump it in the toilet. They were mostly not allowed to take a shower, maybe every once in a while. They were homeschooled and never allowed friends. I guess he didn't want them talking about what was occurring at that house of horrors. In 1995, he met his second wife, Laura Cohen. When he first met Laura, she had a husband and 2 children. Her husband would soon go to prison after her and MANSA met. So MANSA convinced Laura to let them move into her condo. She made pretty good money. She had a pretty good job. And so I guess she had a pretty nice place. And so he went and lived with her, and then they eventually got married. Okay, she would say that when her and MANSA first met and she went to see his children, that she noticed how nicely they were lined against the wall. And they weren't talking, and they were just staring. She thought it seemed like they acted like little robots. But she thought maybe they were just so well behaved because MANSA was such a good father. She would later find out that was the farthest from the truth. This, not long after they got married, he then began to torture her children as well. MANSA would tell her that her children were possessed by evil spirits and to stay away from them. He would strike her son in the head with a shovel and belt buckle. At one point, he even stabbed her daughter in the foot with a knife. In 1998, he would bring a third wife into the family named Adrian, and she had a son and daughter when they met as well. Not long after they moved in with MANSA, she would send her son somewhere else because he was losing weight from the abuse. Don't know why it was just the son, but it was. Looks like she would have sent the daughter too. Looks like she would have ran, but I can't understand it. It would be something you'd have to go through to definitely understand. They then moved into a house since his family was getting so large for the condos. This is when they had a 3-car garage, and he put a partition up in the garage and made his 2 wives with their children live in that garage. It did not have heat, bathrooms, or running water. He controlled all food purchases for the household and provided them with limited and sometimes no food to eat. Laura and Adrian each had a small refrigerator and a hot plate in their garage areas. MANSA locked the rolled-up garage door and door to the house so that Laura and Adrian and their children could not leave the garage unless he allowed them to do so. He closely monitored the few telephone calls they were allowed to make. He even sexually abused some of his daughters. One of the daughters, Crystal, said, "One time my dad took a boat paddle and just cracked me straight across the head. Blood was everywhere. You know what that man did? He got a needle and thread and stitched her head back up himself." They were not only made to eat their own vomit, but their feces at times. I don't know why, but this next one really got to me. All of them's horrific. All of them's, everything they done was horrific. But this one bothered me a lot. Basically, one of the little girls would say that MANSA, would make her hand feed him food while she was starving to death. She would have to smell that food, watch him chew that food, think about how much she wanted to eat, but yet was not allowed to. Just made me so sad. I would give my boys my last food that I had in my house. No questions, about it, they would get the last bite. Even as grown men, they probably wouldn't let me. But that's just the way a mother is. Dads, too. My husband would be the same. What kind of parent could literally have a starving child, even if you wasn't that girl's parent, even if it was some other little girl? Any child. How could you do that to any child? What kind of parent is that? What kind of soul must you have to do any of this? Another daughter named Sharon said she was strung upside down by her feet and left in a dark basement for hours at a time. His second wife, Laura, was finally able to form a plan to let authorities know about all the abuse. So on April 1st, 1999, Laura accompanied Muhammad to the post office so she could pick up her mail and get her food stamps. When he was distracted, Laura handed a postal worker a 13-page letter she had written to her former social worker, describing the conditions at the house. She even had recorded some of the abuse that had occurred, so she could give that to authorities. On April 6th, police came to the house in response to Laura's letter. Officers found all the exterior and interior doors were secured with a chain and padlock or were nailed shut. They found bags of soiled diapers on the garage floor. On searching the master bedroom, they found several knives, a semi-automatic handgun, and ammunition. They found a boat oar in the living room, that was used for beatings. Muhammad's minor children were removed from the home and placed in foster care. Although the children initially denied Muhammad beat them, deprived them of food, or otherwise abused them, they eventually described to the police what had happened in the house. So in May of 1999, they went to a pediatrician that specialized in child abuse and neglect. She examined them and she said they were all drastically underweight and under height for their ages. Muhammad's son was almost 11 years old, but he only weighed 47 pounds and was 47 inches tall. It's about the size of a 6.5-year-old. His son Michael, who was almost 18, only weighed 82 pounds. And he was about the size of an 11.5-year-old. Marlon, who was almost 20 years old, weighed only 78 pounds. 78, guys. And then Marlon also had scars on his forehead, temples, nose, buttocks, between his eyebrows, around his lips, and on the backs of his elbows and hands. His teeth were chipped. His right arm had a healing fracture. He had fuzzy hair on his body due to malnutrition. Muhammad's daughter, Sharon, remember the one that had to hang in the basement, who was 19, only weighed 56 pounds, 56 and 19. And she had not even had her menstrual period. She had scars on her scalp, chin, eyebrows, legs, one ear, and under her lip. Several of her teeth were broken. Her injuries were consistent with being beaten and punched. Her abdomen was distended from constipation due to malnutrition, and that's probably why she didn't have a menstrual period. So in November 1999, MANSA was charged with 7 counts of torture, 11 counts of felony child abuse, 5 counts of infliction of corporal injury on a spouse, and 2 counts of felony false imprisonment. MANSA to this day denies any abuse occurred, but he was sentenced to 7 life terms. 7. The children of MANSA, like I told you, went on the Dr. Phil show that was in 2016. Actually, a quite strange episode. Laura, remember, Laura is the one that helped rescue them from the house. She wrote the big long letter. She was on the show. She wrote a book, I guess. I haven't read it, but I guess she wrote a book about the experience. The children basically say that she abused them too, and that she should be in prison with MANSA. Now, Laura, was she scared of him? Is that why she did that? Or I'm not going to say anything because it's alleged, and I don't want to get in trouble for that. So it never made it clear on the show why they blamed Laura as much as they did him. And of course, you can't use Dr. Phil's shows. You get in big trouble for those. He's real protective of his shows. But if you ever get a chance, you should watch that one. It was kind of a strange episode, but all of them are kind of strange from Dr. Phil. But fortunately, this crime case had a happier ending than a lot of my child abuse crime cases do. At least these children did survive their house of horrors. A lot of times when I do child abuse cases, they don't have a good ending. And as far as I could tell, these children who are now grown on the Dr. Phil show look like they were doing pretty well. And I hope they are. I hope they're recovering. And I hope they're just getting blessed. They deserve all the best blessings they can get, what they've been through. And hope they're doing good. All right, guys. I did get a new computer. My husband was so nice. I was using my son's old computer. It's so old, it was taking me 2 hours to download a video. This new one takes me 5 minutes. 5 minutes. And it wasn't having good sound. It wasn't doing good at all. So he went out and bought me a new one, which is super great of him because I don't make any money doing this. It's something I enjoy. I like researching. I like telling you guys the story. It's just something I quit my nursing job and I just enjoy doing it kind of as a little hobby. I hope I can give you better videos now. I am so happy about this new computer. I am just like over the moon. So I hope I can give y'all better quality. And I'll quit rattling on and just tell y'all bye. And please, just be kind to those around you. You don't know what they've been through. And when you just go out in this big world, just be kind. There's some people out there that may seem like rude people. If you could only see what they've been through, only see what they came out of, and maybe you decide they need a little kindness. So just show love to people, show kindness, and I love you guys. Y'all have a great, blessed week. Bye.
Free me, looking for change, looking for pain, pulling a mob, pushing a train. I'll never stop, stick to a lane, pick up the pieces and go rearrange. I'll be the best above all the rest, put me to the test and expect nothing less. You check as I'm chess, what's happening next? Yeah. He got the venom, a tangible weapon, no coming in second. This life is a lesson. He got a new engine from pain, it's a blessing. New focus, no guessing, just bold and obsession.